Hello. Today's learning goal is I can add linear expressions. A linear expression is an algebraic expression in which the exponent of the variable is 1. Again, which means there are no variables raised to any higher power than 1. When a variable is raised to the power of 1, we don't even write that. So if we look at the table on the right, these are some examples of linear expressions. Negative 5x is a linear expression. Why? Because the x, there's only raised to the first power. There is no exponent. Same thing with the next one, 4x plus 6. There is no exponent. So therefore, it is raised, the x is raised to the first power. And finally, the last one is a good example of linear expressions. Some nonlinear expression examples we have: x squared. The variable has the exponent of 2. The next one is negative x to the third power plus x. The x here is cubed, or to the third power. And finally, we have x to the sixth power plus 2. Again, if the variable has an exponent, then it is not linear. Notice in the word linear, you should see the word line. Okay, these are also equations or expressions that eventually we're going to turn into equations of lines. So linear gets its name from the word line. Now we're going to try adding linear expressions. Okay, you can use a vertical method or a horizontal method to add linear expressions. Okay, so the directions are find each sum. Remember, sum means to add. So using the vertical method, you align the like terms. We start by aligning the like terms. Notice they wrote x minus 3, and then underneath it, they put plus, and then they wrote the 4x, they lined it underneath the x, and the plus 6 underneath the 3. And then you basically just combine like terms. What is x plus 4x? Well, that's 5x. What is negative 3 and positive 6? That's plus 3. Therefore, they wrote a plus 3. So our final answer is 5x plus 3. You can do the same thing with the horizontal method. It just depends what you would rather do. The horizontal method, okay, we're going to use the grouping properties. Okay, so when I look at the horizontal method, I notice that there is a negative 5y. I also notice that there is a positive 13y. I don't do all these extra steps in the middle. I just look and find the like terms. The parentheses, remember, if we're just adding and subtracting, it doesn't matter the order, as long as you keep the sign in front of the number that it goes with. Okay, so negative 5y and positive 13y is 8y. And then we group together the positive 2 and the negative 7. Yeah, make sure that 7 is negative. So when you combine positive 2 and negative 7, you end up with negative 5. So therefore, they wrote a minus 5. So the final answer is 8y minus 5. So again, these are not difficult. It's again just combining like terms. Let's look at the first example. Again, I'm going to use a highlighter to help show you what are the like terms. If I go with the horizontal method, I notice I have an x added to a 2x. Well, I know that x plus 2x is 3x. Then I'm going to combine the two numbers together. The two numbers are positive 3 and negative 1. When you combine positive 3 with negative 1, you get positive 2. So I'm going to write plus 2. It's that easy. The next one. Before I can do the next problem, I notice that there's a 2 out in front of the second set of parentheses. Therefore, I must do the distributive property first. So I start out by just keeping the 4 minus the n. And then a positive 2 times a negative 5n is negative 10n. And a positive 2 times a positive 3 is plus 6. Okay, and now, notice I didn't keep the parentheses there. You really don't need them. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with whatever number came first, or term. I see a positive 4 that I can combine with positive 6. So I know that when you combine positive 4 with positive 6, you get 10. Then I'm going to combine the negative n and the negative 10n. Remember, there's a 1 in front of that negative n. So negative 1 combined with negative 10 is negative 11n. So our final answer is 10 minus 11n. You could also have started out with the n terms, and you could have got negative 11n plus 10. So, or, I'm going to put. So either one is correct. Third example, there is something in front of each set of the parentheses, which means I have to multiply whatever's in the parentheses by the number that's on the outside of the parenthesis. So we're going to multiply a half by both of these. Half of 4r is 2r. Half of 6 is plus 3. Now be careful here. This is a negative a quarter because there's a minus sign in front of it. Negative a quarter times 20 is going to be negative, and a quarter of 20 is 5. Then a negative a quarter times a negative 8r is a positive, so I right away put my plus sign. A quarter of 8 is 2r. Now again, I combine my like terms. I notice I have a 2r plus a 2r, which is 4r. Then I notice I have a positive 3 and a negative 5, which is negative 2. You could also have written this negative 2 plus 4r. Lastly, let's look at the word problem. You earn 6x plus 5 points after completing x levels of a video game, and then lose 8x minus 3 points. Write an expression that represents the total number of points. This one I'll do vertically. We're looking for the total. Total means add. So I'm going to write 6x plus 5, and underneath it I'm going to write 8x minus 3. And I know I'm adding. Now I'm going to just start adding. Doesn't actually matter where you add. Usually we start at the right though. So I have 5 minus 3, which is a positive 2. I have 6x plus 8x, which is 14x. And that's it. That's my answer. We will do some practice problems like these in Pearson. Good luck.